You may be surprised that this episode is not about Valve's Christmas cock-up. Well, it just wasn't episode material for me, you know? Mostly because, in order to demonstrate the catastrophe that was Valve having people log into Steam and seeing other people's user info, in order to fully get across what a tremendous mistake that was, I'd have to spend an entire 10 minutes on my knees fucking a handful of my own shit, which, while an entertaining episode, would not be quite the edifying observance of the game industry that you've come to know and love from me. So instead I'm going to talk about Tetris for some reason. I don't know, that just seemed more appropriate. It's not, but I was able to say more than just a few words like Valve fucked up over and over again about this. Even though it is about people fucking up something that shouldn't be fucked up. Like what Valve did this Christmas with Steam. I mean, really, Valve?
How do you fuck up Tetris? There are certain things in the world so ingrained into our collective societal consciousness, so codified and typified through years of cultural understanding, that they are what I would deem unfuck-upable. Tetris is one such thing. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows how it plays. You have falling tetramino shapes that the player fits together in order to form lines and clear them. It's one of the oldest, most instantly recognisable games in the world. Next to Pong, it's among the simplest. It should not be logistically possible to fuck up Tetris. So what does it say of the game industry then, that it can take a concept so pure and simple as Tetris and somehow fuck it up? To bring a level of incompetence so overwhelming that it can somehow inject fuckery into a nervous system that is supposed to be impervious to the fuck virus. Introducing a tag team of fuck-up legends, Electronic Arts and Ubisoft, who both, over the past few years, have managed to take something as easy to produce as Tetris and royally shit the bed with it. Ubisoft's horrendous recent history with Tetris is a legendary at this point. When it brought Tetris Ultimate to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it somehow managed to produce a simple puzzle game that was borderline unplayable thanks to nightmarish framerate dips and a number of glitches. In true Ubisoft fashion, the thing launched with more bugs than my dad's mom's pubis, with such errors as versus matches continuing to play even after a KO state, leaderboards with literally impossible clear times, a skipping effect thanks to input lag that made tetraminos land in places the player didn't want. Basically, the game was chock full of problems that would be unacceptable in any game, but only became more fucking humiliating when you remember that Tetris first launched in 1984. It's the same fucking age I am, and Ubisoft couldn't get a working version of it on consoles in the year 2014. A year later, quite recently in fact, Ubisoft managed to make Lightning shit itself twice by having the sheer cocking nerve to release its allegedly ultimate version of Tetris on PC, where it continued to be a laughingstock. A lack of options for PC users, including an inability to rebind the keys, poorly optimised menus, and the forced inclusion of everybody's favourite waste of time Uplay, all led to the game receiving a mountain of negative reviews. Oh, and it frequently crashes even to this day. I know because I played it minutes before I started planning this episode out, and it crashed on me then, as it has done many users. That's Tetris there. Crashing. Tetris. I mean, this would all be quite funny if it wasn't so bloody pathetic. It also doesn't help that Tetris' so-called Ultimate is boring as fucking piss as well. With its drab presentation and dreary music, it somehow feels slower and less exciting than the original Tetris does. Compare this to, say, Pac-Man Championship Edition, where real effort was put forth not just to maintain the heart of the game, but add so much energy, life, and speed to it, and there's simply no excuse. The incredible work done with Championship Edition demonstrated how you can utterly revitalize an arcade classic while retaining the simplicity that keeps it unfuckable. And yet Ubisoft, with all its money and all its resources, can't even make Tetris fun or fully working. I say with all its money and all its resources, perhaps that's why they can't do it. But we'll get to that in a moment. A few years prior, Electronic Arts managed to mess Tetris up too, though it did it in an entirely different and so very EA fashion. Electronic Arts, having the rights to publish Tetris on mobile, had the incredible idea to do the most AAA publisher thing it could and add a fucking subscription service to Tetris. Tetris! Yes, for $30 a year, Tetris on iOS offered the T Club, promising exclusive game modes and faster leveling, because of course Tetris has to have the leveling system these days, as well as discounts on downloadable content. Oh yeah, downloadable content, that's something EA and Ubisoft both think is an appropriate thing for fucking Tetris. Tetris. This is of course not the only instance of a major publisher failing the "you had one fucking job" test, lest we forget how Namco Bandai once took Bomberman and turned it into a grimdark mess of a game for the Xbox 360, lest we forget that Solitaire has its own subscription service to remove ads on the cocking thing, lest we forget that most of these games are available to play for free online on your own bloody browser with versions that are ultimately better than the official ones. And what all these games have in common is that they exemplify what a busted fucking machine the so-called AAA game industry is. A machine so bloated and unwieldy and unsure what to do with itself that it can't even produce a game as simple and battle-tested as Tetris without turning it into a broken, convoluted mess. And that's why I'm talking about Tetris today, because it's more than about the ridiculous news story that is Ubisoft screwing up something nobody should be capable of screwing up. It's about how the big-budget game industry cannot perform even the most rudimentary of tasks because it's so fucking ungainly and literally doesn't know what it's doing. To me, the DLC-driven, poorly optimized, fundamentally broken mess that Tetris has become represents the DLC-driven, poorly optimized, fundamentally broken game industry itself. It's basically the perfect example of AAA games, where there's one major job, sell fucking video games to people, and yet the EAs and Ubisofts and Warner Brotherses of the world manage to do so in such spectacularly baffling ways that they have consistently pissed off their customers and eroded trust over years of shoddy releases, shady business practices, and proprietary software that claim to be services, but really just get in the fucking way between players and their games. These companies can't help themselves anymore, because they're so overgrown, so beholden to shareholders, such a sprawling mess that one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. Tetris Ultimate is a fucking mess because the world of big budget games is a fucking mess. A mess that can barely afford to sustain itself, and has increasingly lent on the customers to cover its escaping costs. A mess that needs to rush out games to meet deadlines and worry about fixing their broken asses later. A mess that can sell millions of copies of a game and still fail because the costs to make them are astronomical and nobody asked them to make them cost that much. EA's T Club exists because the world of big budget games is hungry for more and more money in a world where making some money is considered a failure and making all the money in the world is the only measure of success. It's a ridiculous world of extremes. AAA gaming cannot afford its own existence anymore, and the companies within its sphere are now so huge and messy they threaten to collapse in on themselves. With all that in mind, I'm compelled to ask the question I started with: how do you fuck up Tetris? I answer that with another question. When you're a AAA publisher these days, how can you not fuck up Tetris? What did you do today at work, Jim? I played Slave Tetris. That's what I have to tell my family today. What did you do for work? I played Tetris with slaves. That is what this game has done to me.
And lo, the first episode of the Jimquisition in 2016 is in the bag, thus meaning the year can now officially start. It was also my birthday the other day on January 1st, so if you want to say happy birthday, you're more than welcome to, and you can buy me presents. I love presents. Get me some Star Wars stuff, because I saw that new Star Wars film recently, and I like that now, so that's good. Or you could give the ultimate gift of all, not to me, but to the world, by sharing my message with it, and remembering always to thank God for me, this year and every year, until you die. Coming to you now with a special on-site Fuck Konami news report. That's all the news that's fit to make you say fuck Konami. This report was actually curated a while ago, but we were doing awards year-end stuff, so we're doing it now. Basically, when I was at Gamer X in December, I went to an arcade, and in the corner of this arcade, like a shameful child that the parents didn't want anybody to see, was Silent Hill the arcade. So I went in and played it. It clearly hadn't been played or touched or looked at by anyone in years because, well, the title screen was burned into the monitor and the gun didn't work. But rather than me tell you about it, we're going to cut right now to a special, I was going to say live report, but it was live at the time we filmed it, but it was a special on-site report with roving reporter Jim Sterling. Come in, Jim.
So I'm playing Silent Hill, the arcade game, and I'm not having a great time. I feel like I don't hate Konami enough, so I'm playing this. It's in some state of disrepair, it barely works. The title screen's been burned into the monitor, it's been so ignored, but it's got some nice atmospheric fluffy tassels all over the thing here, so that's good. Otherwise it's... What did they do?
Now that Metal Gear Solid 5 is out and Konami's contempt for the world of video games is well known, this might be one of the very few Fuck Konami newses we have left to do, ever. This may be the end of a relatively small era, but we'll see. We'll see what Konami's got in store for us in the future. Probably nothing good, but Fuck Konami news will always be on hand to keep an eye on the news that's fit to make you say fuck Konami. So rest assured, where they're there, I'm there.